Good afternoon. Today I'm here to talk to you about the 5 things that create a strong personal foundation. But let's begin with, why is a personal foundation important? What difference does it make whether your personal foundation is strong or weak, or how do you know whether it is or isn't? So a strong personal foundation means that when change happens around you, you're much more resilient to change and you can adapt quickly without a lot of drama, without a lot of chaos, without a lot of blaming and complaining of other people. But when we don't have a strong personal foundation, the signs of that are any little change flattens us emotionally, it flattens us physically, it flattens us mentally. Across the board, little changes flatten us. Yet, when we have a strong foundation, even the biggest of changes can happen with grace and ease. So, this is what I am wanting to share with you today, is the 5 ways to know whether you have a strong personal foundation. The first one is stress management. How do you handle stress when unexpected things happen in your life? Does it send you over the top into chaos? Does it leave you leveled and staying at home in bed and missing work and missing out on the normal things that happen to you in life? Much of our stress management is determined by the level of optimism or pessimism that we have in our life. And interestingly enough, your level of optimism is part of your emotional intelligence and how you respond to the world. So, here's the thing that we know is what we focus on, we get. And so, if you're focusing on optimism, if you're focusing on solutions, then you're going to find solutions and possibilities. But if you're focusing on all the things that can go wrong, then that's what's going to grow. That you're going to grow the things that can go wrong and catastrophize. Catastrophizing is one of the number 1 causes of stress. When something goes wrong, immediately your mind goes to the worst possible case scenario. So if you can begin to cultivate a sense of optimism, of wellness in the world, that a sense that the world is actually growing in the best interest of everyone around you, despite what you might see on the news, which I tell you, if you have a sense of pessimism in your life right now and you're watching the news, stop watching the news. Stop watching the news. I'm not saying stop contributing to society and doing your responsibilities as a citizen, but stop watching the news and find a way to independently get the information that you need to be a responsible citizen. So, number 2, your decision-making process. Many people get trapped in this decision-making process of, I don't know what to do, and what if this happens, and what if that happens, and what if this happens? And they get trapped in this quandary where in the end they don't make a decision at all. And that leaves you in paralysis, analysis paralysis. So, what's a better way to be with decision making? A better way with decision making is to be very firm on what you know the values are in your life, and then to make decisions according to those values. It's not a bad thing to weigh your options. It's not a bad thing to explore the possibilities from each decision. But if you get stuck in this idea that there's a perfect decision out there for you to make, or with the idea that if you don't make the perfect decision, I call it the whack-a-mole hammer, because I've experienced that in my own life. A feeling like if I don't make the perfect decision, like the big old whack-a-mole hammer is going to come down and slam in on me. And that comes from some of my own past beliefs and expectations from a child, where where I was required to be very rigid and following very rigid rules and guidelines. And if you didn't follow those rigid guidelines, the hammer really did fall. But there's no whack-a-mole hammer. As adults, there's no whack-a-mole hammer. So it is all about making the decision that's best for you with the information you have at the given time. 2 years from now, you might make a different decision because you're a different person and you have different information, whatever. 2 years before, you may have made a different decision because you were a different person. You had different priorities. But today, you get to make the decisions in your best information with the information that you have at the moment that you have that information. The next thing is relationships. What are your relationships like? Take an inventory of all the relationships around you at home, at work, in the community, and overall, is there any common threads in those relationships? Are they filled with drama, or are they filled with a sense of peace and positivity and cooperating, co-creating together for the highest good of everybody involved? So your ability to have a strong personal foundation comes from having strong relationships in your life, having strong friendships, having strong relationships within your family, having strong relationships in your community, having strong relationships in your work environment. And if you don't have that right now, if you look at those relationships and you see many different varying things, then be willing to say who's the common factor in those things and to look at yourself and what you need to upgrade in you to make and shift and change those patterns. So number 4 is communication and expression. And I partner that into two things because they are two sides of the same coin. So communication is, can we communicate in a way that meets the highest needs of both people involved? I call this conflict-free communication. Can you say everything that you need to say, whether it's difficult or not, without causing hurt or harm to the other person? That's the piece of emotionally intelligent communication. But then there's this piece of expression. How able are you to express your feelings about what's happening around you in the moment and about what your needs are in the situation? Because if we can't express what we're feeling inside and what we need to another person, they're never ever going to be able to meet that need or to guess exactly what's going on inside. Many of us feel like the people in our life should be mind readers. And in many coaching sessions, I have to remind my clients that the people in your life are not mind readers. You might presume they should know something. That doesn't mean that they do. So you have to not presume that the people around you are mind readers and presume that they only know what you actually tell them. And to be able to tell them something, you have to know that for yourself to start with. So you have to be able to know, how are you feeling? What's the emotion that you're feeling at the moment? What is the need that is not being met or that is being met in the moment so that you can express that? And then number 5 is self-esteem. We have to find a space of feeling worthy to show up in this world. And there are many conditions, especially for women in our world. Do you know that Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who just recently passed away, she was responsible for changing laws that allowed women to have bank accounts, women to have credit cards. And that's just in the last generation. Women have been treated like second-class citizens for so long that, your grandma didn't have some of these rights that we as women have today. But yet we've been passed down the attitude and the perceptions that our grandmas had when it came to women accepting their place in life. back when the only two careers that were available for women was to be a nurse or to be a teacher. And those attitudes have been inherited down to us as women, that we're not worthy to have more, to deserve more. But yet we live in a world where many women have fought very hard to pave the way so that we do have the right and the privilege to have more and be more and do more. And you as a woman are an equal in every aspect. You are worthy to have anything and everything that you want in your world. If you're in a relationship, your opinion matters just as much as your male partner. If you're in the workplace, your opinion and your perspective matters just as much as your male partner. But you have to show up, ladies. You have to show up. Because if you don't show up and express that opinion, nobody knows what it is. And if you use feeling unworthy as a reason to not show up, nobody knows. So let's come to the table. Let's drop the stories that we're not worthy. Let's drop these old limiting beliefs that we're not worthy. And let's show up. And let's show up in every place in our relationships, at work, at home, in our communities. Let's show up and be the role models to show up 100%. So that we can, number one, create that strong personal foundation where we're no longer silenced. Our truths are no longer silenced. We're able to be authentic to who we are. And that you also then can be the role model to the people around you. So what happens if you don't have a strong personal foundation? Well, it's kind of like the old song that maybe you sang too as a child, that the foolish man built his house upon the sand, and when the floods came along, his house fell flat. But the wise man built his house upon the rock. That means the wise man invested in his foundation. The wise man invested in creating strong personal relationships, in knowing how to manage his stress, in having strong relationships. And the wise woman also invests in these things so that she builds a strong personal foundation so that she shines as a light to those around her. I know many of you women are out there bursting inside, dying inside, because you have something more to give and to express to this world, but you haven't found the way to give it. Well, let's get a strong personal foundation in place, and let's get your voice unlocked and unsilenced so that you can share your light with the world. I'm Vicki Haddock, transformational women's coach with Transcending Limits. And if you know that you have a light inside of you that is dying to shine, that is bursting to shine, then send me a message and let's connect, because it's time to unsilence your voice and to let your light shine. Talk to you soon.